G'day, Dragon Time is brought to you by Nebula, where you can watch the full version of these videos. This week's video is over twice as long on Nebula. There's also our Season 1 recaps and our space-time bending, mind-altering hit piece, The Fake Jon Snow. We're not the only weirdos doing crazy stuff over there, and all sorts of great creators are hosting additional and exclusive content on Nebula, and you get all of that too, like Big Joel's Avatar videos that he beat me to, damn it. In total, there's over 58 hours of our videos hosted exclusively on Nebula. What the hell is wrong with us? And you can watch it all for as little as $2.50 a month if you sign up with the discount you get by using my link in the description. go.nebula.tv/glidus. That's a 40% discount on annual subs if you use that link. It's a great way to support myself, Schwingo, and all sorts of independent creators. Thanks, Nebula. Cheers. Hope you enjoy the lizard fight.
Dragon Time.
Dragon Time.
This is episode 4 of Schwift and Glidus talking about House of the Dragon Season 2.
It sure is. This is the dragoniest episode of Dragon Time so far.
It's the most lizard-heavy episode thus far, I agree, yes. And it made me cry a little bit, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah?
Made me pretty sad.
You cried over those lizards, those pixel lizards on your screen?
Mostly for Eve Best and for Tom Glencarney. But
Yeah.
also for the lizards. I enjoyed the lizards.
We cry for the lizards here on Dragon Time.
Yep, pour one out for Sunfire and for Melis. And for the tattered remnants of Aemond's soul, like burning his brother,
Hell yeah.
killing Eve Best.
Woohoo.
Oh, doggy.
Aemond does stuff this episode.
Aemond has been trying to be a bad guy for long enough that he has now actually become a bad guy.
Yeah, at some point the performance just becomes real.
He faked it till he maked it, guys.
Yeah, he has now maked it.
Yep. But before that climactic horror show at Rook's Rest, Tapestry Watch.
Our sources on the site of the embroidery have reported that there's been no action.
Reporting live from the embroidery room. We'll avoid spoilers for future episodes. My goodness, I sure hope Tom Glencarney is okay.
My goodness, your goodness, everyone's goodness.
For the sake of all our goodness. So Daemon's having a trippy vision in Harrenhal.
Yeah. Well, he thinks he's in the throne room.
So there's a statue looming over him.
Quite a few.
Is that Viserys?
Maybe it's Aegon, because, you know, the legacy of Valyria looms over Daemon. Hi, Millie.
There seems to be a failure of communication between Rhaenyra and Daemon.
Her dialogue being scrambled, ineligible to Daemon.
Do you think that Daemon fails to understand Rhaenyra?
I think it's more about how he imposes his will onto everyone else.
Daemon is, like, resistant to listen to Rhaenyra and to Viserys. Like, remember when, you know, Daemon was going on in this room, Daemon was going on about, I should marry Rhaenyra and make Valyria great again, and we're going to be polygamous, brutal warlord kings, and it'll be great. And Viserys is just like, what are you babbling about?
Yeah,
like, we have real problems in Westeros that we need to solve through diplomacy and patience. And I guess that is an example of the sort of failure to communicate that occurs between Daemon and his family members.
It's caused by the thing in front of him here, the Iron Throne. Power.
Yeah. I mean, it's really funny, like the question of, is Daemon motivated by wanting love from Viserys and Rhaenyra, or is he motivated by power? Like, he never really holds on to power. He keeps getting exiled by his own shitty behavior.
Yeah, whereas someone like Otto, who would want power, doctors his own behavior to not be exiled from power.
Like, Daemon was master of coin and master of laws at various points in the past.
Yeah, commander of the Gold Cloaks.
Like, he's been on the small council, he's had political power, but then he's basically thrown it away and not been that interested in it, it seems. Rhaenyra says, you created me, Daemon.
This may be about, you know, the shaping of Rhaenyra to be Daemon's.
I mean, he put that crown on her head. Like, his support helped Rhaenyra become this claimant queen. It's Daemon's shitty behavior that caused Daemon to be disinherited and caused Rhaenyra to become the heir. So in that sense, Daemon's behavior made Rhaenyra queen.
Yeah. Also, Daemon challenged Rhaenyra's idea of not wanting to, you know, engage in sexual relations at all. Like back in episode 4, she was like, nah, marriage is dumb.
Yeah.
I don't want any of that. And he's like, marriage could be okay.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. Like, if Daemon hadn't taught Rhaenyra about the joy of sex for pleasure, Rhaenyra may never have had sex with Criston, may never have had sex with Harwin.
Rhaenyra's deal with Laenor was spurned entirely by Damon's conversation with her that you can have sex outside of marriage and it can be fine.
And also like the whole ploy of faking Laenor's death and marrying Daemon and trying to be feared. Like all of that is stuff that she learned from Daemon. She says that Daemon is now set on destroying Rhaenyra. That's interesting. He's never done anything to destroy Rhaenyra as of yet, but this is Daemon's subconscious speaking
this is
right
Daemon
now.
telling himself, hey, what you're doing is destructive to our cause.
And then Daemon cuts off Millie Alcock's head. So it is pretty clear that there is some part of Daemon that does want to kill Rhaenyra and perhaps take her throne.
And here, like, the self-actualized version of Daemon is like violently reacting to that impulse.
The self-actualized version of Daemon also wears tight pants and big boots.
This is like the most fantasy bullshit that Sunfire has given us, that like on screen.
What, Matt Smith's tight pants?
Exactly.
And this is exactly the sort of thing that the original Game of Thrones show failed to do. They never had any of these like kooky supernatural visions, and so they never got to explore the sort of deep psychological elements.
I think they were too scared to. I think that it wasn't cool enough.
Yeah. So Rhaenyra says Daemon's deepest insecurity, which is that Viserys loved Rhaenyra more than Daemon, which, do you think that's true?
I think it may have been forced to be true by Daemon's behavior.
I think that Viserys may have loved Daemon more than he loved Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Possible.
showrunners talked about Viserys loving Rhaenyra because she's a symbol of Aemma and his guilt for the death of Aemma.
So his love for Rhaenyra is a facsimile.
Yeah.
It might not be necessarily real for her.
And I also think that Viserys didn't know Rhaenyra all that well. I mean, they were apart for a lot of years.
And he, like, he chose to ignore one of the core facts about Rhaenyra's life, in that she fathered 3 bastards with Harwin Strong.
Yeah. Yeah. But
He chose to ignore large parts of who his daughter was, is what I'm saying.
yes. And he sort of idealized her and just sort of chose to believe that she'd be this great ruler and chose to believe that she wouldn't be challenged and rejected. And whereas, as Daemon said previously, Daemon and Viserys grew up together. They're brothers. They had a lot of years of history together before Rhaenyra ever existed.
Yeah.
So I think in a sad, twisted way, I think Viserys at least knew Daemon better than Rhaenyra, and that's why he didn't choose Daemon.
God. But this is Daemon's subconscious projecting that insecurity onto him.
Yeah.
So a part of Daemon does believe that Viserys, or at least fears that Viserys loved Rhaenyra more than he loved him. And like, that's such a selfish thing to be fearful of as well. Like, oh no, a father loved his daughter more than he loved me.
Yeah, you're right. It's possessive. Daemon wants to possess all of the people that he loves, and he wants them to love him and only him more than anyone else. Pretty kooky.
Oh, where'd this blood come from? I don't remember smearing my hand in ketchup last night.
Did Daemon just have his period? So Daemon is on some level admitting to himself that I've done bad things, and maybe those bad things that I've done are related to people not loving me as much as I would have liked.
He's slowly figuring that one out.
Daemon's going to realize I may have gone a bit too far in some places.
But I'm pushing 60.
Yeah.
It is now the time to have this realization.
I also think it's very funny that Simon Strong just walks in on Prince Daemon Targaryen while he's asleep and says, "Time for breakfast, my prince.
Your Grace.
His king, consort,
Linus.
Grace, whatever you're calling yourself today." Tristan Cole's army has taken Rosby and Stokeworth. I have a very minor gripe about the relative locations of Rosby and Stokeworth. The official maps don't actually show us Rosby and Stokeworth's relative locations, so it's not clear which one is closer to King's Landing. And it seems that in Hot D they have decided that Rosby is closest, because that's where Gwaine and Kristen go first along the Rosby Road. And that's the end of my pointless geography corner.
So your gripe is that they've decided something that was previously undecided.
Gripe is the wrong word. I am appreciative that they have clarified the geography somewhat. However, I think this might make Alt-Shift-X retroactively wrong, because in one of Shift's videos, Shift placed Stokeworth closer to King's Landing than Rosby on the map based on speculation from the community, which apparently is untrue due to Hot D.
Wow.
I am just stoked that this has finally destroyed the last vestiges of Alt-Shift-X's credibility.
Yeah, it's
you
finally.
know?
Are you Stoke-worthed about it?
I am Stoke-worthed about it. So everyone can unsubscribe from Alt-Shift-X now.
And subscribe to
Aren't you
us.
so glad you came along on this geography journey with me?
Thanks for counting me into the geography corner.
Making you an unwilling participant in geography time with Alt-Shift-X. All right, next time you take us on a taxonomy journey, I'm going to grass as well. So Rosby and Stokeworth have joined Kristen's army. His plan is going well so far. His canny scheme.
'Tis no longer moot.
It is unmoot.
'Tis mutant.
Look, here's the thing. Kristen's good at war.
Yeah.
He's bad at everything else.
He's good at being bad.
Daemon meets, what's his name?
Oscar. The Grouch.
And Oscar is apparently the grandson of Lord Grover Tully, who is not well.
He's a dying old man, so weary he can barely think. He can only take drink.
Ooh.
So basically, Oscar is describing Viserys to Daemon.
Yeah.
And Daemon's like, why didn't you kill him? This guy sucks, it turns out. Oscar Tully is not a younger female relative of Daemon's, so it does he extends no sympathy or compassion.
But it's so funny. Daemon just woke up from a deeply introspective dream where he felt guilt for his treatment of others. And here he is just being a dick relentlessly to everyone.
He lashes out. He's frustrated. Then he doesn't want to have to deal with all those fucking feelings that the witch in his head is giving him.
There's a whole bunch of other Tullys in the books, like Kermit and Grover and Elmo. And we are not kidding that they're named after Muppets. But it seems that the show has
We shall not declare for either candidate in this war.
But it seems as though in Hot D, they've decided to tamp down on the Muppetry and instead just have Oscar Tully, who has like the most acceptable name. You can kind of get away with calling a character Oscar, whereas if this character was called Elmo or Kermit, it would be harder to take seriously.
Kermit was a completely normal name like 100 years ago.
No longer.
Tis moot.
It seems like they're just trying to sweep the Muppet stuff under the carpet. Oscar seems like a nice young man.
Yeah, he does.
Oscar refuses to murder his grandfather.
That's the bar. You cleared the bar, Oscar.
And so Daemon says, get out of here, I'll talk to the Blackwoods instead. If you're not willing to fight a war with me, then
I'll just undermine you. I really like this bit at the end here where Simon Strong goes up to Oscar Tully and he's like, don't worry, kid, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
He's like this to everyone.
Simon is such a nice guy.
He is.
Maybe Simon's just feeling a bit of sort of fatherly feeling towards Oscar, trying to be nice to this young kid after... Although, I mean, Simon's actual 3 children are around, apparently. Those gormless fellas we saw last episode.
We have to find a better way to refer to those people.
There is no better way.
It just seems really rude.
Yeah. Simon is in charge of the biggest castle in Westeros, and his main concern are beans and looking after people, which is, like, great.
He's just this soft old man.
Yeah, to Daemon's absolute frustration. There's a moment where Simon introduces Daemon as the king ... consort. Yeah.
The thing is, there's been no previous case of a king consort in Westeros.
Yeah.
Like, there's no precedent.
Yeah.
So it's a subtle movement, I'd say, from insisting on your grace rather than my prince. I'm not just a prince.
Yeah. It's a bit subtle. It's a bit ambiguous. And I think that the way that, Simon and Daemon talk about it, and the way that Daemon just cut off Rhaenyra's head in this episode.
And then Alys Rivers asks him later, are you happy that her legitimacy is contested?
Yeah, definitely the subtext is that Daemon is considering rebelling against Rhaenyra, making himself king instead of just Rhaenyra's husband. Yeah, when a woman calls herself her grace, no one thinks that means that she's in charge.
Yeah.
But when a man calls himself his grace, that does imply that he is perhaps in charge.
So yeah, it's subtle, it's ambiguous, but it's there.
He sees Rhaenyra, he sees Laena.
I wonder if we'll see Rhea next episode or something.
So then Rhaenys meets her husband's bastard son, Alyn.
Whoa, how do you know that he's his bastard son? What, the show hasn't told you that explicitly yet.
It has now.
Has it?
I'm pretty sure it does.
It doesn't say it explicitly.
Are we still tiptoeing around this? Come on. Rhaenys says to Corlys, I know who he is.
Yeah, and she talks about his mother.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. I really love that moment where she strokes Alan's face and she says, damn, you're hot.
Yeah, I love that Alyn is like clearly terrified of the wife of his father who cheated on her, and he's facing this princess who has a dragon.
Yeah, she's one of the most powerful people ever.
Yeah, and she was cheated on by Corlys, causing you to exist, and she just grabs his face
and says, "Yeah, no, I get it."
Yeah, this has got to remind us of Catelyn Stark when she faces Jon Snow, who is her husband Ned's bastard son.
This isn't the sort of thing that Kat says to Jon, though. Your mother must have been beautiful. It makes you think, like, is Alyn plagued with the same issues of identity as Jon Snow? Like, is he caught between being a bastard and being a Velaryon?
It's both personal and political, like everything else in this show, where Alyn doesn't quite know what it would mean for him to become part of the Velaryon family, but also is worried that, Velaryons seem to be dying a lot. Maybe I don't want to die in a war.
Coward.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting where Rhaenys is being so sensitive and reasonable here.
Yeah.
And Corlys is like, stop getting in my face. What is this? An inquisition?
Come on, woman.
Come on. I cheated on you. Whatever.
Calm down.
Like it's pretty rough by Corlys on Rhaenys here, I think. Rhaenys is usually pretty reasonable and accepting about some of Corlys's behavior, which is sometimes terrible for their family.
Like gallivanting off for 6 years to do a stupid war in the Stepstones and almost dying.
Yeah, so Corlys tends to not do what Rhaenys wants or be sensitive to Rhaenys' feelings. And yet they still have this deep well of affection and love for each other. So it's this sort of like strained relationship.
I'm sure there are very few decades-long relationships that are perfect, you know? Is there a person more defeated than Rhaenys, like across her entire life?
Yeah, she's like simultaneously so badass and proud, but also does nothing but take L's for 60 consecutive years.
And I think that the show's point there, it's like it ties into Alicent as well, also being basically powerless at this point. You know, Rhaenyra came to her at the end of the last episode being like, hey, let's end this war because, we had a little misunderstanding. And Alicent's like, what the fuck do you mean? I can't do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that Rhaenys and Alicent are both women who have not had as much influence as they would like.
Oh, if they were men, if Rhaenys were a man, she would be king.
But Rhaenys does have one thing going for her, which is she's a Targaryen dragon-riding princess. And so that's the card that she plays at the end of this episode. And it's how she goes out.
It makes
as
me
a
think
Targaryen
of
dragon rider.
Alicent and Rhaenys' conversation in episode 9. It's the card that she plays at the end of that episode too. I have a dragon.
Yeah.
What do you have, Alicent?
Yeah, it's kind of Rhaenys' two moves is like accept the shitty situation that she's in and do nothing, or fly out on a dragon and kill people. Those are her two moves. And like neither of them are great, if we're being honest. Neither of them are ideal, but she knows which one she wants
She
to
plays the
die
hand
of.
she's been dealt.
Yeah. And yeah, obviously I'm really curious about like what all of this means for Alyn.
Especially with Rhaenys dying tomorrow. Maybe after Rhaenys dies, Corlys will realize that his entire family is gone.
Yeah.
Like, all he has left is Rhaena and Baela, and Baela's just as likely to die in a stupid dragon battle as Rhaenys was, and Rhaena's gone.
Yeah.
So maybe he has to embrace his son.
Yeah, no, Baela almost crashed into a tree at a mathematically significant percentage of the speed of light last episode. So, like, given current trends, I think Corlys should start looking at other inheritors of his legacy. So, I think they are very... I mean, smoothly is the wrong word, but they are setting up the direction of these relationships. Hey, look, this is really sad.
Yeah, that's the dragon that Alicent had made for Viserys back in season 1. Back in episode fucking 2. That was like the moment where Viserys was like, yeah, no, this could be a thing.
So this is kind of the object that got Alicent married to the king, created Aegon and Helena and Aemond and Daron. Alicent does not look pleased to see it.
Yeah.
Look at her face. Like, she's realizing that, I misunderstood Viserys' last words. My son is an awful king. I wish I could undo all of this. And then she drops it and it breaks again. I think that the broken Targaryen statue also represents how House Targaryen is broken between the blacks and the greens. I know, symbolism.
And how it's tearing
blue
itself
curtains.
apart. Yeah.
It also implies a little bit that it's Alicent's fault that the dragons are broken.
Yeah.
Alicent's feeling pretty shitty this episode.
Well, she's had a really uncomfortable awakening.
Yeah.
At the end of the last episode.
Yeah. Her one excuse for this whole war was that, I'm just following Viserys' wishes, my husband's dying words. And now it's like she no longer has that excuse and she has to live with the fact that this horrible new reality is partly her fault. Hey, look, it's Rickard Thorne.
Is that Rickard Thorne?
Yeah, he is a new face. He's got a grey-white beard. He's the 7th Kingsguard. We have now seen the 7 Kingsguard on the Greens side.
Oh, thank God.
I know. I was stressed. Where are the 7 Kingsguard?
I'm still waiting to see Rhaenyra's 5 new ones.
Hey, look, it's Grandmaster Orwyle.
We're having a Grandmaster Orwyle scene, everyone.
So Orwyle was introduced in season 1 when he was working with Melos on keeping Viserys alive.
And it was like the Grandmaster's understudy.
And Melos was like, all leeches, all the time. And Orwyle was like, can you consider some herbal poultices? And in the books, at least, it's implied that those herbal poultices were way better at keeping Viserys alive than the leeches
kept him alive for an additional 2 decades or so.
Yeah. So Orwyle brings moon tea.
Made from moon leaves.
Moon tea prevents pregnancy.
It's an abortifacient.
We don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know the exact mechanics of how this works. We don't have.
I don't claim to possess
uteruses.
any of the relevant apparatuses.
The point is that it prevents pregnancy, and Alicent has been having messy sex with Kristen Cole.
Sloppy sex.
sloppy sex with Kristen Cole. And something that we've learned is that, the moon tea can cause a lot of discomfort. It can also cause infertility.
Yep.
That's what happened to Tully, isn't it?
There are schools of thought on this.
And you'll also remember that Alicent gave moon tea to Diana.
And Melos gave moon tea to Rhaenyra.
Orwyle's like, so whatever girl needs this moon tea, totally not you. I know it's not you, but tell your friend who needs this that it can scramble your gizzards.
And Alicent says, yep, I'll keep a close eye on my personal friend who needs this.
Yeah.
Her gizzards.
Yes, this is a song of lizards and gizzards is what I call Hot Day.
Occasionally wizards.
Yeah, gizzards, lizards, and wizards. That's true. I mean, I wonder how many times Alicent has had moon tea as well, because she's been having sex with Kristen for a while, it seems.
Is Orwyle in and out every day? We're running out of moon leaves.
But Alicent is desperate for allies, because Kristen's gone, Otto's gone.
Larys sucks.
Aegon and Aemond suck. Like, who's she going to talk to? Fucking Iron Rod?
Well, here she is talking to the Grand Maester. Who wants to talk to the Grand Maester? He's a boring nerd.
Remember, like, last season when Lionel Strong was the one guy who gave good, decent, unbiased advice? Alicent is looking for a Lionel right now. And Orwyle basically refuses to have an opinion.
Yeah.
Like Alicent struggled this episode is that last episode Rhaenyra said that Viserys did not actually change his mind. Viserys really did want Rhaenyra, not Aegon.
And you were stupid for believing him.
And Alicent is trying to grapple with that because Alicent basically made the biggest, most catastrophic oopsie in Westerosi history. Yeah. And now she's just trying to grapple with that. She's trying to confirm that it's true. And no one seems willing to engage with her on that. So,
yeah. The closest she gets is with Larys. That's not a very useful confidant.
On the Black Council, we discuss the movements of Kristen's army. Baela is continuing to spy on him.
Perhaps Sir Alfred Broom could kill Kristen when he's on his dragon.
You want to sweep up this mess, Alfred Broom?
Can't believe it's a broom.
This is another thing you can't just brush under the carpet, Alfred.
Under the tapestry. There's more disentangling ahead of him than at the end of a Lyseni orgy.
Yeah, you think that Lord Massey attends some Lyseni orgies?
Well, he's certainly aware of what goes on at the end of them. Is this like a common metaphor?
I mean, possibly. I mean, Lisa's famous for its brothels and its sex slaves, right? So, I mean, didn't we hear about Johanna Swan in season 1, where the Triarchy were kidnapping and enslaving people and sending them to work in the Lyseni brothels? Johanna Swan, by this time, is probably ruling over some of these Lyseni orgies. That's what's going on in the books.
Yeah, she's the overseer of these orgies. The orgy overseer.
The orgy marshal, the orgy captain. What's the correct term? The orgy officer? Who adjudicates an orgy? What's the correct term?
I don't think adjudicating is the right terminology because it's not... Well, it depends on if it's a casual or competitive orgy.
The meta is completely different. I think that someone has to be wearing the high vis vest and the whistle. Like, you need the orgy whistle to adjudicate the orgy, I think. Like, someone has to keep track of who's got the most points, right? How do you know who won the orgy otherwise if you don't have an orgy referee overseeing the situation?
That was our orgy tangent.
That was the orgy corner. And, again, the Black Council is saying, hey, why don't we burn the bad guys with our dragons? And again, I feel like those guys have a pretty good point, personally. They need to watch out for Vhagar, as we learn this episode, but it'd be a pretty easy thing to roast Criston.
This council is rudderless. It's descending into chaos without Rhaenyra the way that the Green Council descends into chaos without Otto.
It is crazy to me that they are allowing Alfred Broom.
Who the fuck even is this guy?
He's just like a random knight who's been at Dragonstone for a long time. His house is not powerful. He doesn't command a great army.
You know what Rhaenyra really should have done before she left?
What?
Named Rhaenys, like her right-hand man.
Yeah. But I mean, what would she have wanted Rhaenys to actually do?
Yeah, true.
Continue to do nothing, right? Like, that is Rhaenyra's plan currently until she returns.
Yeah.
So, it is a shitty situation that the whole Black Council is in.
I have a bone to pick with this next shot of the Darkland shield.
What's that?
Well, they have 7 Kingsguard, white shields on the sigil, right? Which is a reference to the number of Darklands who've been appointed to the Kingsguard. In book lore, there is a maximum of 6 Darklands that could have been appointed to the Kingsguard at this point in time. And yet the shield has 7?
Yeah.
So, what's your answer to that, Ryan?
T. Mickle didn't pick this one up. Ryan and T, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Come on, Sarah Hess. What's this about? Got to invite Glidus as a law consultant.
This show is garbage.
This ruins the whole show. Unwatchable. I'm going to start a petition.
Remake House of the Dragon with good writers.
Yeah. Immersion broken. Yeah, so they only have the 7 Kingsguard later in history, do they?
Yeah. There's one that's definitely appointed slightly later down the line.
Maybe this 7th shield is more of an aspirational number, They're just setting their intentions. Criston calls Rhaenyra the whore of Dragonstone.
The whore of Dragonstone.
So Criston continues to see this whole conflict in terms of sex and in terms of purity and chastity, and he cuts off the head of Lord Darkland, who rules Duskendale, because Darkland refuses to submit to Criston and Aegon.
Smooth moves, Darkland.
Kingmaker.
Makes you think how the story has been propelled through the kingdom so far. Because Criston didn't really make Aegon king in the show.
People are saying Criston's doing it because he's the guy wearing the hand of the king and he's the guy killing the folks and leading the armies.
Otto has been removed from power. He's out of the castle. He's out of the city. He's out of the story.
Otto was such a good, reliable hand who served so many kings faithfully. Otto never did anything wrong in the eyes of the public.
Tiny little birthday boy. You wouldn't hurt him.
Yeah, innocent Otto who did nothing wrong.
Wouldn't hit a man with glasses.
Lord Darkland says that Criston is not fit for the White Cloak.
I love that that's coming from a Darkland who have such a strong history with the Kingsguard.
Yeah, there's 7 White Cloaks on the Darkland shield.
Fucking 7.
Anachronistically. It's anachronistically, isn't it? Not unaccurate. Well, it's inaccurate and it's anachronistic. It's an inaccurate anachronism.
Yeah, that's right.
Inaccurate anachronism.
It's an anachronism.
Okay. Snack on that. So yeah, Criston basically wins this episode, I think it's fair to say.
Well, it doesn't feel like it, when you're watching it from his perspective in the last scene, though.
Yeah. So Aegon starts the scene by saying, "Fuck you, we should have sent our dragons," which is the most Westeros line. I've seen Game of Thrones described as knights who say fuck. We're so used to it now, but I think at the time it was surprising that this fantasy show was one in which there were knights and dragons and chivalry and such.
Foul language.
But there was also saying naughty words and boobies, and I think that was a pretty unusual combination at the time. So,
fuck you, we should have brought our dragons.
Yeah, if you sort of forget for a moment that
imagine that line in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, if you forget for a moment that you're a big Game of Thrones fan, that's just an inherently hilarious line.
No, you're right.
Aegon complains that Daemon has Harrenhal. We're reminded.
It's your fucking castle.
And Larys is a little bit offensive when he says, "That castle is more crippled than I am, Your Grace."
Sick burn, Larys?
Yeah, sick burn on yourself, ? He always sort of demeans himself. He wants people to think that he's all weak and helpless because that's how he gets power.
Yeah, you see him have shriveled posture whenever he's talking to Aegon, when actually he's a pretty tall guy.
Yeah.
He's an imposing figure, and he stands up straight when he's talking to Alicent. Larys says that he controls Harrenhal's gold, and I don't really understand the physicality of that.
Yeah, what does that mean? Like, did Larys physically take the physical riches of Harrenhal from Harrenhal at some point?
Are we picturing Larys like hopping out of Harrenhal with a giant sack of gold?
with a big dollar sign on the side, and he's wearing black and white and stripy clothes? Yeah, possibly. Like the fucking Hamburglar.
Aemond says that Kristen's going to attack Rook's Rest, and Aegon's reaction to that is like he's never heard of it before. Rook's Rest? Are you fucking kidding?
Yeah. Which, you know, makes sense from Aegon's perspective, because he doesn't know about this plan to spring a trap for the Blacks.
Yeah.
And Rook's Rest is not a big castle, so, I mean, Aegon's bafflement makes sense.
I love how he's so confident in moving shit around on the board. He's like, this goes here, and we win.
He's actually looked at this map before, whereas Aegon is like, is this magnets? How do they stick on?
Yeah, he scrambles over there later and he's like, put it back. I want to take Harrenhal.
I love how they slip into speaking Valyrian.
Yeah, sort of excluding everyone else from the conversation.
Just like Rhaenyra and Daemon often did. The sort of secret, intimate Targaryen language.
I love how bored Martin Rain looks in the background there.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious. He's staring at the ceiling. That is funny. These guys hate their job. Jesus Christ.
It's great.
Aemond basically criticizes Aegon for being a shitty king who's focusing on nonsense when he could be ruling.
Yeah.
And Aegon says in broken Valyrian,
I can have to try to make a war. It's fantastic. He has the Valyrian aesthetic. He has Aegon the Conqueror's name, armor, crown. Yet he can't speak the language.
He has the appearance and none of the substance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just great because it shows how power, you're not born with the ability to be a good ruler. You have to work at it.
And Alicent says later, did you think that putting the crown on would imbue you with wisdom?
Yeah. And that's the fundamental irony of the whole monarchy thing, is that people are born into power, but they are not born into having the skills and the knowledge to rule well.
Alicent is cooking some rocks to keep her belly warm.
Fun.
Because it hurts, because she just drank poison.
Yep. And Larys walks in and sees the moon tea container sitting on her table.
Hey, look, she's been dealing with a lot. Busy cooking rocks, man. What can I say?
Yeah, she's got rocks to cook.
It's a full-time job.
My goodness, she should have hidden that moon tea
Not
container.
to mention the lamprey pie. Look, you'd figure Larys would figure this one out anyway, regardless of whether the cup was still on the table.
Yeah, Larys saw Alicent drinking the moon tea from 3 different angles from 3 different rats in various parts of the room.
We have cameras there, inside the rock.
I love Larys's language. Oh, that is a rich indulgence.
Well, he was talking about pie last season.
He's talking about Crispin's peanut. So what do you think are Larys's appetites and indulgences?
He likes humiliating people. He likes hurting people. He likes having power over people. Normal stuff like that.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job of like implying that Larys does monstrous things in the shadows, but we don't have to see too much of it. Leaving it to our imagination is more scary than actually showing us anything too horrific. Although it wouldn't shock me if we did see something horrific soon from Larys. Alicent asks if anything of note was discussed at the council. Remember how last season Rhaenyra was furious that she couldn't participate in the council, in the war council, because she was busy giving birth?
Yeah, she was busy doing womanly bodily things.
Now, in the same way, Alicent's body is keeping her out of politics when she wants to be a part of it. So again, Alicent and Rhaenyra are suffering the same issues. And so Alicent says she's going through a lot.
Yeah, I've been dealing with a few things recently.
And Alicent is reading some of Viserys' old history books, possibly to try and find records of Aegon's dream of the prince that was promised.
Yeah, that's a big one to confirm. It makes sense that she'd be trawling through anything she can find to square that one away.
And Alicent ultimately says that people will believe what they want to believe, war's going to happen, and it actually didn't matter what Viserys thought.
But she's still looking for confirmation of what he said.
Yeah, with the cynical Larys, Alicent voices the cynical perspective that the truth doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But part of her, emotionally at least, wants to believe that she's doing the right thing by her husband's last dying words.
She also says in that little spiel there that the victor will ascend the throne, like eventually ascend the throne, like as if to say that it's not Aegon who is currently on the throne. She's detached from this conflict at this point. She actually doesn't care. Is that what she's saying?
You'll notice that she's not wearing a green dress right now. She's wearing a blue dress.
Like the blue dress she was wearing at the very, very beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Before any of this factionalism took hold.
Yeah.
Back when she was Rhaenyra's friend.
And Otto is gone as well, and he was a huge influence on her, sort of green determination.
Yeah.
So
What is Alicent now? Matthew Needham is like perfectly strangely handsome.
Daemon.
I love this shit.
It's just like Daemon wants to be a badass, glorious warrior dragon rider, and here he is in this dank bedroom.
I can't sleep because the ceiling is dripping.
It's so funny. There's mysterious candlelight, which, you know, maybe it's pure hallucination. Maybe it's Alys Rivers messing with him.
And he follows a figure walking through the halls with a torch. I actually, at first, I thought it was going to be Viserys, and then I realized the eye patch strap, and I thought, oh, it's Aemond. And then he turns around and it's Damon.
This is very funny.
It's so funny. Just a look. He's doing Ewan Mitchell's like pursed lips.
He is. Yeah, it looks like a different face almost, you know, because they're pulling such different expressions at least.
It's fantastic.
And what a dickhead Aemond is. And oh, wait, he's just like me. You know, like seeing someone similar to himself, he's like, that's how people see me.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a guilt thing.
Then he barges in on Alys Rivers mashing some vegetables.
She's making some kind of weird potion.
Yeah. I love the shots of her ingredients where it's like, it's just unclear enough what she's working with.
Yeah, you're right. It's very like, it's like, is that like porridge or is that like eye of newt and blood of children?
Yeah,
you know?
is this rhubarb or like a cow's heart? What are we talking here?
Yeah. No, it's cool because it's like it's somewhere between completely mundane and deeply spooky yuki Halloweeny.
Yeah,
you know?
And that's the whole character so far. She also looks as though she could be 20 or 60.
Yeah, it's great casting.
I think it's fantastic.
I mean, in interviews they've said that Alys Rivers is 400 years old, apparently.
Potentially 400 years old.
Potentially 400
You gotta note the couched language there.
Which is the same way they talked about Melisandre. Do you think Alys is Melisandre?
No.
Do you think Alys is Leaf?
No.
Do you think Alys is the ghost of High Heart?
That one I'm more amenable to.
I knew I'd get you eventually. So yeah, she's a witch who seems connected to the magic of the old gods.
Hell yeah. I can't wait I just want to see more. The show has me excited to see where this plot is going. Harrenhal is so cool.
Yeah, Harrenhal is super cool. It's so funny that Alys is like so powerful and creepy. Like, I mean, last episode she told Daemon, you're going to die here. And now she's saying, oh, well, you know, I'm just making breakfast. And she's so disarming. And it's like... So, I mean, I guess Daemon doesn't even know if that was...
Are you sleeping well?
Like, was that real or was that just part of the hallucination when he saw Alys? And I think Daemon is too scared to ask that, you know?
Yeah, he doesn't want to admit that it's getting to him.
Alys said that Harrenhal is cursed because Harrenhal, the Ironborn who built Harrenhal, cut down the grove of weirwood trees that grew on these lands.
That's right.
Heart trees imbued with the spirits of those who lived long before, and their whispers can still be heard. And his bed was made from a heart tree.
Oh, is that all?
But I mean, Lionel doesn't seem like a guy who had a lot of mystical visions.
Yeah, that makes you think, like, was he just so strong that it didn't get to him at all?
That's the stuff, Lionel.
Yeah.
You forget your dreams as soon as you have them.
It's actually crazy how much time he spent talking to Viserys, who was plagued by his dragon dreams, when Lionel is from a cursed castle where people get crazy visions.
Yeah, that's a great point. How could Lionel not know?
How did Alys Rivers never come up?
Yeah. One of the most tantalizing possibilities is like, well, if Larys grew up at Harrenhal, he must have known Alys. And Alys is a witch with the magic of the old gods, and Larys seems possibly to be someone who may have magic powers to aid his spying. Like, what was Alys and Larys' relationship like? Did she teach him magic? Did they have sex? Like, because that's kind of Alys's thing in the books, is that she controls men through sex. She lays with demons to gain forbidden knowledge, and she births stillborns, and their souls get eaten, and she bathes in the blood of innocence, and it's unclear if any of that is true.
That's wife material.
Alys is out here saying, have you experienced anything of note? Alys, you told Daemon he was going to die last night.
Yeah, but he hasn't admitted that happened.
She's testing him.
Yeah, she's like almost teasing him.
She is. She's such a shit stirrer. I love it.
Brilliant.
It's so funny when someone has like cosmic power and is totally like glib about it.
Here, drink this.
Need me to fluff your pillows? Yeah, drink this blood from a virgin. Like it'll knock you right out.
Do you think Damon is awakening his latent psychic powers by consuming human flesh?
Is that Jojen paste?
Is he eating one of Simon Strong's children? Is he going to become gormless? Even
odds, man. Even odds. And then Alys says that she's a barn owl. I think... And look at Daemon's face. He's like, all right, you're an owl. Like, fucking great. She's so goofy and self-deprecating that no one is going to take her as a serious threat.
Almost like Larys, how he's always self-deprecating as a means to diminish his own fucked upness.
God, you're so right. Yeah, Alys and Larys are so similar. They know things, they have power,
their names
creepy,
are
they're
basically anagrams of one another.
Yeah, Alys and
Alys
Larys.
are Alys Rivers.
So you've got the IVERS left over. It could be like Larys Silver or something. There's an anagram there.
We've come too far. She's just a barn owl. Leave her alone. She's so perceptive, or rather, she just like looks inside your head and knows like he's here to sulk. He's come to Harrenhal to be a sad boy.
And she's also correctly reading that Daemon is kind of desiring to betray Rhaenyra and name himself king. That is also something that is in Daemon's head that she is reading.
And I love that Daemon calls her a witch.
Yeah.
Like we're just being upfront about it.
And he drinks it, the madman. He actually drinks it.
Do you dare me to? I'll do it.
I'm not afraid. Yeah, maybe it's weirwood paste. Like, it's red, right?
Yeah.
It might actually be weirwood paste.
It's made from something.
Because in the books, Bran Stark drinks weirwood paste that's meant to open his mind to psychic powers, and then he has a crazy time travel dream vision. So it is entirely possible that that's what's going on here. That is cool to think.
Matt Smith is so wonderful in being completely disoriented through this next scene.
Matt Smith just genuinely didn't know where he was. They just didn't give him the script for this scene.
What? Who is this? Where am I?
Hey, look, it's Willem Blackwood.
Yeah, he's all grown up.
He's got a goatee now. So Daemon, because of the Trippy potion, has just forgotten like half the day, it seems.
Yeah, he's tuned into this scene just as we have.
And Daemon gets all of his like sense of self from like being in control of himself, if nothing else, but now he's lost that. So it really forces him to question everything. So then he sees his dead wife, Laena.
My God.
He saw Rhaenyra earlier, now he's seeing Laena. We saw how their marriage was slowly breaking apart in Pentos, and she wanted to go back to Driftmark and he refused, and then she died by dragon, which would be pretty traumatic stuff.
She chose to die by a dragon because she was going to die by birthing his child.
Yeah, that he put in her. So I guess, Daemon maybe has failed to process or mourn his dead wife.
Oh yeah, because like the next week he hooked up with Rhaenyra, like without skipping a beat. Did he take any time to process any of this? Did that occur to him?
Daemon has done nothing but run from his feelings, and now he's being forced to confront them.
Yeah, it's great. Aegon is making use of his fidget spinner.
Wonderful. The Green Council talk about the problem of feeding their dragons, which is a problem they had before the war as well, right? But I suppose it's a bigger problem with the Velaryon blockade. And so now the government is like, these 4 guys.
Yeah.
Can we trust these 4 guys? I don't know if we can. Are they going to run things? I don't know. And yeah, hilarious that Aegon is just bored and walks out.
Yeah.
So Alicent is still searching for...
rummaging through a kid's shit for their dead dad's stuff.
This is just like every Ice and Fire fan, like rummaging through the books to try and find references to the prince that was promised in Azor Ahai.
And Aegon's like, they're somewhere, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how they became forgotten.
Aegon complains that his council doesn't listen to him, and Alicent says that you have nothing worth saying.
She doesn't give a shit anymore. It's great.
Maybe if they had had some of these conversations earlier, if Aegon hadn't Diana and totally disgusted and alienated Alicent, maybe then they would have had a better relationship and she might have actually taught him. But she has very little interest in him. Like, yeah, she's like, what are you going to do? Kill me? This relationship is done.
Yeah.
Which makes which makes what happens to Aegon at the end of this episode even more heartbreaking.
Yeah, like right? who has Aegon left to care about him?
Yeah. Yeah, no one loves him. He's the king and he has nothing. Yeah, and Alicent tells Aegon to just do nothing and let people rule for him, which is sort of what Alicent has been forced to accept for herself.
Yeah.
She's accepted that she can do nothing. So I think she's just being really nihilistic. I mean, as she would. I mean, she's just found out that her whole support of Aegon was a embarrassing oopsie doopsie. So, like, of course she's feeling just nihilistic.
That really hurts Aegon, being told that his job is to sit and do nothing while other people rule for him.
Devastating stuff for Aegon, and that's what drives him to drink and then get on Sunfire and then get burned.
You think Alicent's going to blame herself?
God. Yeah, no, that's
what Alicent needed. Another thing to blame herself for.
Oh, man.
Fucking hell.
Like, just when you think it can't get worse, the devastation.
Yeah, she just said to Larys, hey, I have had like minutes between tragedies here. I'm still like 7 tragedies behind in mourning.
Yeah.
And now her son has just been burnt to a crisp in a battle that he wasn't supposed to be at.
Alicent just said, I'm at my limit. Why does God keep giving me his hardest battles to fight? And then this happens. Fuck.
I really love these shots of the woods. It's so pretty.
It is very pretty.
I also love that we see like the physicality of a military camp.
It's interesting that like Kristen's horse is decked out with Faith of the Seven Stars.
Yeah, this is the holiest horse you ever seen.
Like his faith is his armor. The person who is most loudly proclaiming his virtue is the least virtuous.
Gwaine Hightower is sort of confused by Kristen's movements.
Yeah, so Kristen has not told anyone about Kristen and Aemon's plan to jump scare quick time event attack them with the biggest dragon in the world, which is going to ruin the day of whoever is dumb enough to turn up here.
Yeah, whichever idiot shows up.
It's interesting that like Kristen's leadership style is to not communicate with anybody and just demand total obedience anyway, which is consistent with like what he's been doing for the last 10 years, which is he has had no one to confide in. Kristen is ultra isolated.
Rhaenyra finally shows up.
Rhaenyra's back from her like second mysterious absence. I mean, the Black Council will be so frustrated. Like first she went off to find Luke's corpse, now she's going off for some unknown reason.
Yeah, she didn't even tell them this time.
Jace has now decided or been convinced that they're going to send dragons, despite Rhaenyra's desires to the contrary. Bit of light to moderate treason.
And if you just look at his stare here,
yeah, that's scary.
He's becoming Daemon.
Daemon had to confront not just his shitty past, but also the influence he's had on people in the present what the future implications of that is going to be.
Ooh, yeah, that's tasty.
please don't say that again. I no, I'm going to put that as a soundbite on our
soundboard.
We need to make a Hot D soundboard. Why haven't we done that yet?
This is the stuff.
That's the stuff. Oh my. Now, what's
coupling? Post your soundboard suggestions in the comments below.
Yeah, please do. Rhaenyra says, I'm back from being a nun. Stefan Darklyn is the son of Lord Darklyn, who just had his head cut off by Kristen Cole.
Actually, in the books, Lord Darklyn is Stefan's nephew.
Ryan Condal, it's unwatchable.
This show is garbage.
Immersion broken. Jace is mad, and Rhaenyra apologizes and says that she went to the enemy's stronghold to talk to the enemy and to ask her to please stop doing a war.
I like how all the characters acknowledge how stupid this is.
Yeah.
How insane an idea it is. Even Rhaenyra herself is like, yes, I know it was insane of me to do that, but I had to.
But she also sticks to her guns and she says, I did this because if there's a chance that I could save thousands of people from a fiery death, then I have a moral obligation to try it. The two most likely outcomes of her doing this was her successfully pushing the realm away from war or her being killed or captured.
Yeah. Both of which
would have ended the war.
This is actually the worst outcome. Rhaenyra being here is bad.
All right, I tried. I'm all out of options, and so now I am on board for this war thing.
Yep. She's now come to the realization that it's so fucking over, man.
Yep.
Messari is looming.
Ooh, like Larys does.
Yeah.
So good at looming. And so they hear that Kristen is marching on Rook's Rest, and it's a bit weird because Rook's Rest is not very important, and it's very close to Dragonstone. So Jace says, let's send a dragon.
Basically, he falls for the trap immediately.
Yep.
I wish someone had said in this scene, well, Vhagar's not going to abandon the Red Keep because, we could attack there.
I 100% agree. Because like, what the Blacks are doing by sending one dragon to Rook's Rest is pretty dumb when Vhagar is out there, and Vhagar is so big and could kill any of the dragons. All they needed was for Baela to say...
I really expected that they were going to send Baela as well. I actually did.
That would be really emotional for Baela to see her grandmother's death, I think the way that they did do it in the end makes sense. But yeah, I totally agree. They should have mentioned Vhagar in this scene. There is that moment at Rook's Rest where Rhaenys engages with Vhagar, and then they sort of disengage, and then Rhaenys like hovers around and then sort of turns back to face Vhagar, even though it's pretty clear at this point that Vhagar will just kill her. It seems to me as though Rhaenys is like knowingly, willingly going to her death, which, why? Welp, guess I'll get eaten by Vhagar. I didn't like that aspect of it. I didn't understand that aspect of it. Is she just thinking that like, well, I've got to try. I've got to try to kill Vhagar.
Yeah.
Aegon meditates on the fact that his parents hate him, and he decides to break things, because that's how he handles everything.
Yeah. And he's drunk. He's been drinking, he's breaking shit, he's annoyed. It's time to go do something.
I like this library scrolls shot that is overarching over Rhaenyra and Jace as they discuss the history of Aegon's dream.
With a dragon skull between them.
Yeah. It would have been cool if Jace knew that when he was talking to Kragan, because it's the Song of Ice and Fire. It's something that connects the Targaryens to the Starks. Would have been great if Jace could chat to Kragan about that. Maybe that conversation could happen a bit later.
Yeah, maybe.
Rhaenys gets on Meleys to go kill Kristen, while Aegon gets on Sunfire.
Woo!
He's so sparkly.
He's so pretty. Look at him.
Opalescent.
Oh my god. Cutie.
Aegon actually looks happy to see Sunfire. Sunfire loves Aegon, even if no one else does.
Yeah.
Eve Best. Going off to battle again. I mean, remember when Rhaenys was saying that Meleys must rest and gorge, and so must I? You know, like they seem like twin souls. They're both old ladies.
I love how all of these scenes, like before characters go do things on their dragons, they have this moment where they like huddle up with them, nuzzle, hug, cuddle.
So intimate, so beautiful.
Yeah. Like even Damon did it with Caraxes in episode 1.
What's this headpiece?
It's a little tiara. Isn't that cute?
It's very cute. Do you think it might be Valyrian steel? Is it a boomerang? Is it a Valyrian steel boomerang tiara?
She should have used it to take Vhagar down.
Maybe that was a plan.
Sliced cleanly.
I'm sure this one old man will turn the tide.
Yeah, he's really going to help.
Meleys flies off there, and so does Aegon on Sunfire.
I like the balls that he flies past. Battle goes nuts.
The battle goes off like a frog in a sock.
What signal? What are you talking about? You're being weird.
So it turns out that Aemond and Kristen's plan was for Vhagar to activate his trap card.
I really love that shot of Vhagar just like almost being obscured by the trees.
Yeah.
Like the underbrush. She sort of blends in, which is crazy for something so ridiculously large. But then Aemond notices that Sunfire is here, and he decides to wait it out a little bit.
I also like that Kristen continues to talk about the faith of the seven and the gods are giving us divine purpose.
I really like this speech.
It's really funny how like Kristen feels able to use the religion of the faith of the seven as a justification, despite his constant betrayal of the tenets of the faith of the seven.
Dragon battle time.
I mean, Rhaenys sees Aegon on Sunfire and thinks, like, this is my lucky day. Like, this is Rhaenys' opportunity to kill the enemy king. They have a go and they start fighting. Sunfire gets wounded pretty significantly, it seems. And then Vhagar turns up only after they've engaged. If Aegon dies in this battle, Aemond becomes the king. And so he's trying to allow that to happen.
Woohoo. What a cool guy.
So then Rhaenys is terrified because Vhagar is bigger and stronger than Meleys, but holy shit, Aemond burns Aegon.
Yeah.
So
what's up?
So when Aemond tells Vhagar, Dracarys, does Vhagar know that Aemond wants Vhagar to burn Aegon and not Rhaenys? Does Vhagar like sense Aemond's intention psychically?
Well, you'd have to ask her. It did seem pretty pointed at Sunfire specifically and not Meleys.
I'll just say Dracarys and see who Vhagar decides to burn. So it's a big contrast to like when Vhagar killed Luke against Aemond's wishes.
Yeah.
This time he very much is deliberately killing one of his family members with a dragon.
Yeah.
Rhaenys is, she seems unaffected like by Vhagar's attack. That was purely on Sunfire.
She's probably a bit weirded out that happened.
Yeah.
And what's, oh my God.
She doesn't understand what's going on.
It's a little strange how like, well, it's not strange. It's funny how we've seen Rhaenys interact with the Greens basically not at all. Like it's been Rhaenys and Alicent and that was it. She hasn't spoken with Otto, Kristen, Aegon, Aemond, Helena, any of them.
Do you think Rhaenys is thinking, is Aemond and Vhagar on my side?
Yeah.
Are they helping me?
One.
Like, yeah, just utter confusion is exactly what she would feel here. But ultimately, she decides to tell Meleys to attack.
She skates along the surface of the water there a little bit. Very nice.
Like, she's got a lot of distance from Vhagar. She could and should run away. That's what's getting me.
This is her opportunity. If she kills Vhagar, like she just saw Sunfire go down. If Vhagar goes down, it's over. The war is done.
That is true.
She's trying to end it all right now.
And Rhaenys is confident. Like, she is an experienced, capable dragon rider on an experienced, capable dragon. She's hoping that she's got a chance to kill Vhagar. I mean, I guess this is very similar, isn't it, to when Rhaenyra just chose to go to King's Landing and face Alicent. She knew that she'd probably die, but she did it anyway because it was their one last hope of preventing the war. I guess Rhaenys is doing exactly the same thing here.
If Rhaenys can end this war in one battle, she has to try.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We have onboarded him.
Yeah, no, my mind has been changed, but I think the episode doesn't communicate that.
Did you want her to turn to the camera and say, I must now try to end the war, for it is all I can do?
Well, they could have had this conversation at the Black Council.
Like or maybe in private with Rhaenyra.
Yeah, like when Rhaenys said, I'll go, someone should have said, but what about Vhagar? And Baelor could have said, oh, well, you know, Vhagar has been staying at King's Landing to guard the city. They won't disobey the capital. And then Rhaenys could say, well, if Vhagar does turn up, then maybe
what an opportunity, huh?
Yeah, maybe I can destroy the strongest
If any of us can defeat Vhagar, it's me.
Yeah, which is factually true, because Meleys is the biggest, strongest dragon that the Blacks have.
And Daemon's off doing some weird shit.
I like the way that they've depicted this. I mean, remember when...
It's a dance.
Remember when the dragons fought in Season 8?
Yeah.
And it was
this is
dark?
the first visible dragon fight we've ever seen.
Wouldn't the Targaryens just instantly be burned to death? And then it sort of raises that question again of like, are Targaryens fireproof in the show? Because in the books, Targaryens aren't fireproof, but in the show, it seems that Daenerys sometimes is fireproof.
Matt Smith seems convinced that Damon is fireproof.
Yeah, from that Wired video.
He's just having a bit of a laugh there.
You know, in hindsight, one of our complaints about that Wired video was that the Wired video said that Daenerys' dragons are birthed by...
You know what? I don't care.
Aren't you excited to have learned that particular piece of lore from an out-of-universe Wired YouTube video was the first place that was revealed because they didn't get their spoiler embargoes timed correctly? That is why we learned that from that video.
God.
That
so
Cyrax, not Dreamfire, is apparently the mother of Daenerys' dragons. Which, while we're on the topic, because I brought it up, so a lot of people online say...
Online? Why'd you go there?
I know, it was a mistake. A lot of people say that Dreamfire is the mother of Daenerys' dragons.
It's a theory.
If you look at the text says... I know.
This guy's online, he's going to the text.
He's reading books too?
Yeah,
what will he do next?
I thought we were just here to talk about Dragon Show.
And they say that all of Dreamfire's eggs that she laid on Fair Isle hatched on Dragonstone. It doesn't say that every egg that Dreamfire ever laid hatched, but it does say that at least some of Dreamfire's eggs hatched. So then, later in that same paragraph, when it says that Alyssa took 3 eggs from Dragonstone, you cannot assume that those were necessarily Dreamfire's eggs.
Because there are other dragons on
any dragon's
Silverwing's eggs.
So I agree that the
Alyssa
eggs
Farman's
Alyssa
eggs,
stole
but not
are
necessarily
Daenerys' eggs. But I do not agree that they are necessarily Dreamfire's eggs. I do not agree that Dreamfire is necessarily the mother of Daenerys' dragons.
Right.
She could be, but not necessarily.
But it's definitely not Cyrax, because Cyrax was Rhaenyra's cradle egg.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra was not alive yet.
Yeah, it might be Dreamfire, or it might be any other dragon of that era.
Unless, and here's the other possibility, Alyssa Farman's eggs have nothing to do with Daenerys' dragons.
That also is possible.
That seems unlikely.
Maybe Illyrio Mopatis actually had 6 eggs. He had both Alyssa's eggs and Cyrax's eggs. Maybe the other 3 eggs will appear in the Winds of Winter, and Jon will ride 3 dragons.
Nice, at the same time.
Hell yeah.
In one big trench coat.
Triple track drifting Jon Snowgarian. Anyway, back to Dragon.
Oh yeah. Dude, how cool is this?
I mean, we're sort of skipping over the action scenes. I mean, obviously they're great. They're very scary.
I love the physicality of having a ridiculous dragon.
Yeah, it turns out that having a dinosaur stomping over a battlefield is not necessarily good for anyone involved.
Yeah.
I mean, the bit where Kristen touches one of his soldiers and he just turns to ash, it's like, oh god, this is bad.
It's fantastic.
Rhaenys knows she's going to die now, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I mean, she knows this is like, this is over.
It's so over.
But instead of flying away, I mean, Meleys is looking at her saying, "Hey, we doing this?
Are we
sis?
doing this?
Like, we doing this?" It's so sad. And one of Meleys's horns is broken by Sunfire. Oh God, this is sad. But bravely, she turns around. Oh my God, this is really sad.
Yeah,
this
brutal.
is so sad. And I can't bear to see it.
I really thought we were going to see Meleys' head just ripped off.
Look at how afraid Meleys looks. It's almost like accusing at Rhaenys. Like, why are we doing this?
Why have you done this?
I can't believe you've done this. It looks like her soul has left her body.
Yeah.
When Meleys dies. When Meleys dies, all the life goes out of her.
Have we ever seen a dragon die without their rider dying? I don't think we have. I don't think that happens.
Well, there's Rhaegal and Jon Snow. The TV show doesn't count. Yeah, it's a silly show.
That didn't count.
It's a silly show.
Yeah, I think that having your dragon die, like maybe that would just do something like this to you.
Well, look at Viserys, right? Balerion died.
Yeah, that's right. That is the only case we have of the dragon dying while the rider lives.
Yeah.
Maybe it made him the weak guy that Damon thought he was.
I find it quite funny that dragons explode when they hit the ground.
I think it makes sense. Like, there's something inside them that makes fire, right?
Yeah. No, it's perfectly logical. I just find it very funny.
It is funny. Do you think they have, like, hydrogen-filled sacs that get ignited when they feel like breathing fire?
Yeah, I guess. Can we just appreciate how stoked Aemond looks right now?
He's so cool.
Because he has just accomplished so much.
Oh, yeah. In terms of current military assets, Aemond has just destroyed the Black's biggest one.
And he's also killed Aegon, burned Aegon, which
remains to be seen whether he's dead. He looked pretty dead.
As far as Aemond is concerned, he's basically just made himself king. So this is a great day for Aemond Targaryen, but also like
it's a shit day for Kristen.
Also, he's done something incredibly evil by attacking his own brother.
Yeah. This is what you get from being strong enough to do things, right? This is what Viserys avoided his whole life, is doing things. Because this is what happens when you do things and you're a Targaryen.
Viserys was right, and everyone should have just stayed home and partied and looked at the tapestries, and then none of this would have happened. If everyone just stayed home.
Yeah, I love that this is the best day of Aemon's life. But then we cut to Kristen, like, having a just truly terrible time.
Look at that devastation. Ooh. How much more of the realm will become this?
Can't wait to see the behind the scenes of this one.
All because they named too many kids Aegon.
All because the family tree was too confusing.
The fiery crater where Sunfire landed.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
Great stuff. This shot's beautiful. This show's beautiful.
Yeah. No, visually,
look
this
at
is
this.
Incredible.
Aemond is going up to Aegon's crash site with a sword out.
Yeah, it does look as though Aemond is intending to kill Aegon if he's still alive.
And the only thing that stops him is Kristen.
Or maybe Aemond sees the condition that Aegon is in and decides that he's already dead. Finding the goddamn catspaw Valyrian steel Aegon's dagger dropped, lost, abandoned. Remember when it was dropped on the ground after Alicent attacked Rhaenyra?
Yeah.
The Targaryens are failing to literally uphold their sacred duty in the form of the blade. Look at the textures on Sunfire.
Yeah, that wound is crazy.
Like, oh my God. It's really grisly.
That's your budget. That's the budget right there.
It's really grisly, and we saw how beautiful Sunfire was. Yeah. And now, I'm pretty sure you can hear Aegon breathing.
Right.
You can hear Sunfire breathing, and then you can also hear Aegon breathing. So I think it is apparent that Aegon is alive, but he seems very unwell.
You would be.
Maybe his Valyrian steel armor helped him stay alive.
I wonder if he'll remember that Aemond did this. Let's just pause on this last shot here because it's immensely gorgeous.
Yeah, that is a shocking, devastating shot. Like, you know how Daemon's always walking away?
Yeah.
We always talk about how similar Aemond and Daemon are. I think Aemond is also just walking away from something that he can't emotionally face. And for Kristen, of course, it's devastating because he keeps failing as a Kingsguard.
Yeah, my God.
He failed to protect Jaehaerys, he failed to protect Aemon's eye, now he fails to protect Aegon. What the hell kind of Kingsguard is Kristen?
And you have to remember that Kristen was named to the Kingsguard before Aegon was born.
Yeah.
He has been here for this kid's entire life.
Yeah. He's almost like a kind of a father figure to Aegon, I suppose.
Yeah, he's one of Aegon's daddies. Yeah. Especially now that he's fucking his mum.
Oh no. Kristen is kind of like part of the family. Like, this is the closest thing to family that he will ever be allowed to have. And he keeps failing them. They're a pair of Crispies now.
They sure are.
They're both crispy.
Crispy Aegon.
This is an emotionally devastating episode.
Ooh.
I I can't even with Rhaenys.
Can you odd?
Aemond in the books seems as though he was just always villainous, whereas the show is giving him this arc where he accidentally killed Luke, but then had to sort of grapple with the consequences of that. And then he made a decision that he'd rather appear monstrous than be vulnerable and humiliated and bullied. He'd rather appear strong than appear vulnerable.
Is he going to deal with this one through therapy with Sylvie as well?
Alicent might feel some guilt that she was being so harsh on Aegon right before he went to Rook's Rest.
Yeah.
You know, Rhaenyra and the Blacks will feel some guilt at Rhaenys' death. And Rhaenys has been saying this whole time, like, we need to avoid this war, we need to avoid this war, and she's one of the first major people who dies to it. It's very sad.
Oh, it's decently sad.
I wonder if this is going to spur Corlys and the Velaryons to become even more involved in the war. I mean, Baelor is going to want to get on Moondancer and get some revenge, right?
Yeah.
But everyone's going to be extra scared of Vhagar now. Vhagar seems like this unstoppable beast.
And you get the feeling like the only person who's going to be game enough is Daemon.
Daemon.
Daemon taking on Vhagar.
So, just after we've established that the war can't be avoided, that's when the full horror and emotional devastation of the war comes to light.
Yeah.
Just too late.
Just after Rhaenys had, stated her thesis a couple more times.
She also had a shitty conversation with Corlys before she died.
Yeah, that's not going to sit right with him.
So what's the theme of this episode? Like, nobody is happy, I think. Nobody's happy about what's happening, except maybe for Criston and Aemond. Like, the worst people are happy about what's going on.
I don't know if Criston's going to be happy after the end of this battle, for all the reasons we just discussed.
Well, yeah,
his surrogate son has just been burnt to a crisp in front of him. Fancy lad Gwaine Hightower, did he make it out all right?
I think part of it is, like, the most powerful people are paradoxically the least powerful. Like, no one's really in control of what's happening anymore.
Yeah. We're not just dancing on the strings of those who came before us. We're dancing on the strings of us.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
The shit you did last week.
13 episodes of bad decisions, the consequences are finally coming to haunt everyone.
13 episodes of fucking around. We are now finding out. Good dogs, though.
Great dogs. Great goat. Yeah. That was a goated goat for sure.
I've seen more demonic goats.
Yeah, Sarah Hess described it as a demonic goat.
Was she describing a different goat?
Maybe the goat is a recurring character.
And it's going to get more demonic.
I reckon next episode
it'll be a reflection of Damon's mental state.
Damon will wake up in bed and the goat will be like on bed staring at him in his face.
Hell yeah.
And then in Rhaenyra's voice it'll say, "Why did you do this to me, Daemon?" Bah! Thank you for listening to this episode of Dragon Talk with Alt-Shift X and Gliders.
I guess you did do that. Look at you.
We'll do this again next week.
And then the week after that.
And the week after that until the end of time. No, just until the end of
just
season
until
2.
the end of the season.
Just
we were
joshing
kidding.
you.
Just having a little bit of fun. We like to have fun here.
We're getting like extra Glidus wheezes every episode, I swear. All right.
The kettle keeps going off.